How's it going, guys? It's Double Rim here, back with another game reaction, NBA game reaction. Now today, like I said, I was going to try to watch different playoff teams. So yeah, today I watched two games. I watched the Bucks Sixers, which was a great game, and then I watched the I just finished watching the Utah Clipper game, and both really good games. I'm gonna be honest. So during the Sixer Bucks game, I was cooking dinner and then eating dinner, so I missed kind of the first half and was able to catch most of the second half. And then for the Utah Clipper game, I had to do some homework, so I was kind of doing homework and watching the game. But I was able to watch like spurts of it. I watched probably most of the second quarter and most of the fourth quarter. And so I'll give you the rundown of pretty much what I saw. So first, I'll talk about the Bucks Sixer game. Now, like I said, I started watching the second half. So the Sixers were up 10 to start the second half, and I don't have much confidence in this team, especially in big games and especially in the playoffs. I mean, just looking at their I believe what history and what, the real world has actually shown us. And James Harden and Joel Embiid and Doc Rivers have shown us that they're not great playoff slash clutch performers. So that's just to get that out of the way. So pretty much even though the Bucks were down 10 for most of like the second half, I always was confident they were going to make a run. And all year when I've watched this team, they in a lot of games, I mean, after winning a championship, you just get a certain level of confidence in basketball. Is realistically, maybe, it just depends who you ask, but it's like 30 to 60% confidence. Like, once you have that confidence that you can beat anyone, that you're the champs, that you can come back from any game, similar with the Clippers, actually, it doesn't really matter. Like, you're just always in a game, no matter what, even if you're down 10 or 20. So yeah, the Bucks turned it on in the fourth quarter. Towards the end of the third, they kind of made a little run to cut the 10-point lead down. It was just kind of a back and forth the whole third quarter of just like keeping it. They were just always kind of down by 10, and they made a little run at the end of the third. And at the start of the fourth, they continued their momentum. I didn't see Doc Rivers playing DeAndre Jordan much today. I might have just missed it because I was like eating dinner and stuff while watching it, but that's good at least for Sixer fans that they don't have to see any more DeAndre Jordan. But anyways, yeah. So the Bucks made a run. Giannis was sensational. He, it's just amazing watching him because he just gets the paint at will. He just can finish over anyone at will, and he's just so long and so athletic and such a freak. Honestly, he can do anything. The Sixers didn't play that great at defense. There was when it was getting really tight, there was a late possession. Late in the possession, like James Harden, watching James Harden, he just puts so little effort in, and that's what I think bugs me the most. On defense, he just kind of, they set a screen for Drew, and then James switched onto him, but just didn't really step up and just kind of stayed there. And Drew just hit pretty much a wide open three, uncontested three. And Drew's been hitting those this year, so that was a huge shot. The Sixers, James Harden, got some stupid foul calls as he always does. I don't know why the refs continue to give him its own set of rules. It's honestly ridiculous. But yeah, the Bucks closed it out. There was a little scare there, towards the end. The Sixers were hitting some big threes, and making it a 1-point game. But Giannis got fouled, missed one of the free throws, so it was only a 2-point game, but he got the clutch block on Joel to seal the game. Don't really have as much to say about this because, like I said, I was kind of occupied with eating dinner and stuff, but, I usually watch basketball games with a lot more intent. But, yeah, it's Chris Middleton seemed like I have a good game. Brooke Lopez did an awesome job guarding Joel Embiid. He looks really good, after coming from a back injury, like Serge Ibaka, for example, is also coming back from a back injury. Back. Serge Ibaka looks rough. And Draymond Green, too, also looks rough. But Brook looks awesome. He's mobile, he's quick, and I think he's like 34 or 5. So, it's pretty impressive at his age coming, uh, returning from a back injury, how he looks. Chris seemed fine. I don't think he really made any big plays down the stretch from what I recall. Tyrese didn't really do much on the Sixers side. Um, yeah, the Sixers really lack depth. James Harden, I think, it's funny because everyone was talking about earlier in the season how, oh, Ben Simmons is only worth CJ McCollum, or Ben Simmons is not worth blah, blah, blah. But honestly, James Harden, I don't know. It seemed like a good idea at the time and seemed like a good trade, but he is just not that good of a player right now. And, he's a positive offensive player. He's still good at offense and drawing fouls and passing, but he's just a lot slower. Obviously, he's a negative defender. And I think, honestly, if the Sixers had traded Ben Simmons for example, Portland really wanted him, and I'm a Blazer fan, so I would have. Maybe I'm a little biased here, but I feel like the CJ trade package was honestly superior to the Harden one because, for example, if they traded Simmons for CJ, they could have traded, they would have got CJ and like some picks. Maybe another role player off the Blazers like Robert Covington or maybe a guy like Larry Nance, right, who were on the team at the time. So I think that kind of trade would have suited them better. Reinforce their depth, but also give them a elite ball handler and scorer. And even though, say what you want about CJ, CJ is really good, man. I mean, he's gotten it done in the playoffs in big moments, and he's gotten it done way more than Harden has, and that's just a fact. I mean, even though Harden has played in way more big games, but CJ McCollum arguably has bigger playoff moments than James Harden. I mean, his legendary Denver quadruple overtime heroics. Come on, that alone is a greater deal than anything James Harden has personally himself done in the playoffs in regards to clutch situations. So I think a trade package like that would have helped the Sixers a lot more. Or, for example, a Bradley Beal one. Like if Bradley Beal hadn't got injured, that would have helped him a lot more because what they had to give up to get Harden was just a little too much for his value. And now they're kind of in it's funny. James Harden is is incredibly similar to Russell Westbrook in their attitudes, in their offensive value. I'd say Harden is definitely better than Westbrook at his peak and right now, but they're very similar players, incredibly high usage, big stats guys who don't really want to win and who don't really show up when it matters. So it's kind of I think in a few years this is going to be exactly the same as the Russell Westbrook situation where he got a huge contract extension and now teams like the Lakers he's been on 4 teams in 4 years, right? He was on the Thunder, then he was on the Rockets, the Wizards, and now the Lakers. So I feel like Harden will end up in a similar situation to that if he gets the extension this summer because then he's going to have like a $30-40 million contract, maybe even great higher for the next 4 or 5 years. And, Harden's already slowing down a lot right now. It's notorious that he likes to go out, party, stay up late, not take care of his body super well. And those kind of things really matter in the NBA, especially as you get older and especially when the competition is so high. Even the tiniest little bit of edge can make you a great player or just an average player. So, yeah, those are my thoughts about the Sixers. Don't trust them in the playoffs. Think the Harden deal was a mistake. I think they could have gotten a lot better package. Anyways, that was a little long rant about that. Now to talk about the Clippers-Utah game. What a game, man. So I'm not a Clipper fan, and I usually don't like the Clippers because Paul George is on it, and he's kind of a Blazer rival, right, with the OKC series and stuff, and there's some beef there, a little bit of beef, but and I just don't root for LA teams. It's just not a thing I do. But I was rooting for him tonight because I'm a big Curry fan, right? And I've never seen him play. I talked about this in a previous video. So I bought plane tickets to go see him. I haven't bought the game tickets yet, but I bought plane tickets to see him on specific days, assuming that they would have home court advantage in the playoffs, right? But the Warriors have been sucking ass lately. I mean, it's actually quite a sad stat. They're 500. They're 21-21 in their last 42 games. That's concerning. So they've dropped, their win percentage has completely tanked, and they're really in danger of actually losing home court advantage right now. So I was really hoping the Clippers would pull this one out because I just need them to get the 4 seed. And I can't refund my tickets since I'm really cheap. So I just really need them to stay in home court advantage. But anyways, so I was rooting for the Clippers, and early in the game, they're down 20, right? But that's the thing about this Clipper team, man, and about this Jazz team. This Clippers team is one of the most resilient teams I've ever seen in my entire life. I mean, watching them in the playoffs last year against the Mavericks, Jazz, and even Suns to an extent, watching them this year, come back from what was the lead they come back from? They came back from like a 36-point deficit. I mean, that is just insane. Like the amount of confidence these guys have in each other and the amount of grit they have is incredible. So in this game, they were down 20 points, maybe a little higher, but they were roughly down 20 points, and they made a run somewhere. I think in the second quarter or third quarter. Anyways, they made a run earlier in the game to cut it to like 8 or 5. And I was like, okay, I think it was about 8 points. And I was like, oh yeah, here they come. They're coming back from 20 points, down just like they always do. But then the Jazz extend it back up to 20. And it's like, oh, well, I guess, they made their run. The Jazz made their run, and it's probably over. Then, so I missed most of the third quarter and some of the fourth because I was doing some homework. And I come back and I see that it's like a 7-point game or something in the fourth quarter, and the Clippers climbed their way back, man. They just know how to execute. They just stay calm and composed in clutch situations. And this Utah team is on a bit of the second spiral of the season. So the Utah Jazz end up losing after holding a 20-point deficit pretty late, a 20-point lead late in the game, and the Clippers come back in Paul George's first game back from injury. He's been out for the last few months. So just to talk about a few players, Rudy Gobert, I always think they need to get him more involved in the offense. I think he just is, with what he does on defense, I feel like they should really try to help him out, get his scoring going, and I feel like it would add another dimension to their 3-point heavy offense that really lives and dies by that three. And this was a perfect example of it. In the first half, they're hitting threes. I think they were hitting I think they hit like 10 for like 17 or something like that in the first half. So it's like they're shooting a really good percentage, and they were up big, right? But once they start missing shots, they say it's a make or miss league, and with the Utah and 3-point reliant teams, it really is, because they don't have a good way to get easy baskets. And I think that's where Rudy Gobert comes in, because obviously you can't just dump him in and get a post move, but running him in pick and roll and just kind of chucking it up to him, he can probably finish over most NBA players. I mean, he's huge and he's so long. So I just feel like they got to get him more involved. But Rudy did kind of get, he got beaten on a few plays like he does. I mean, he cannot be the entire defense. The Utah Jazz's guards literally are turnpikes. They literally cannot stay in front of anyone. It is just embarrassing. Whenever, a Clipper player, Royce O'Neal's the only defender who can stay in front of guys, and whenever a Clipper player wanted to get past a Jazz, perimeter player, besides Royce O'Neal, they did. So yeah, Donovan Mitchell did his, normal stuff. I don't know the stats of the game because I just finished watching it. I haven't checked the stats yet. But Donovan Mitchell, late, he had a big floater late to put the game back within 1. But besides that, he was turning it over a lot. Paul George was stealing the ball a lot in the late game situations, and those turnovers really cost him the game. Yeah, let's see here. I got the stats up. Okay, yeah, Mitchell had 33, so he had solid efficiency. I mean, the whole Jazz team shot 55% from the field and 38% from three. But before I look at the stats, I'm willing to guess they had tons of turnovers. 15 turnovers. Wow. Okay. That's not a lot, that's not as much as I would have thought actually watching the last. They had like 4 or 5 it felt like in the last 5 minutes of the game. And that's pretty much what lost it for them and made the Clippers be able to come back. Obviously the Clippers had big shots. Isaiah Hartenstein had 2 huge like floaters right over Gobert, huge shots. Um, he's just a gritty player. He's the kind of guy you want on a team. He's going to play hard, play with effort. And when I watch NBA, that's the number one thing I look for. If I was a GM or executive or whatever, even though now I'm not going to say never happened, but if I was a GM or an NBA executive, effort is probably the second most important thing. Maybe the most important thing. The co-favorites. It's a 1B to like all the like it's a 1B to skill and size and things of that nature. But it's incredibly important. And he just plays with a lot of effort. So he hit 2 huge shots. Paul George hit some big shots, was playing great on defense, even though he had a minutes restriction, like I said. He picked Donovan Mitchell's pocket, got some super clutch steals. Let's see his stats for the game. Yeah, he shot great. 50%. He was 10 of 20 from the field and 6 of 9 from 3. And he only had 2 turnovers and was a plus 15. And this was all in 31 minutes. So, yeah, he played great. It was fun to see Robert Covington out there as he was a former Blazer. He played fine. Really, the whole Clippers team played good, especially down the stretch. Reggie was pretty clutch. Luke Kennard hit a huge 3 to put him up 2 when they were down 1. But yeah, this Clippers team, I mean, what I'm saying is pretty much all been said. They are incredibly long, great defenders, can switch, and just are super resilient and confident in themselves. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The Clippers are going to be a scary team next year. The NBA is going to be crazy next year. It's going to be so deep. But yeah, anyways, all right, double rim out. You've watched YouTube before. You know what to do. You know what all the people ask for. Yeah, peace out. Thanks for watching.